We have a quorum and it's 7 o'clock on the dot.
I guess we do have a quorum. Well, all right. Welcome everyone to our meeting this evening. Marcus is not going to be here, so I'll be chairing tonight's meeting. And Will, Priya, Pam, and I are here. Are we expecting anyone else, Alex or Rebecca?
Werner RSVP'd that he would be here, and I didn't hear from Sam. So
Okay. Well, should we get underway?
yeah, let's roll.
Sure.
All right. Okay, well, we've got an agenda in front of us. Does anyone have any changes or additions?
I have one small modification. I thought at the end of this we would add on a quick item about readdressing some of the social engagements that the Conservation Commission has had on the calendar in the past that we put off for various reasons. I thought we could revisit that at the end of this meeting.
I
Excellent.
second that.
Yes. Yes, excellent idea. Okay, thank you. Anything else for tonight's agenda?
That's it for my end.
Right. Well, it looks like Werner is about to join us, so our numbers are increasing. Good evening, Werner.
Hello.
We're just getting underway and looking at the minutes from the August 26th meeting, which we got in our packet. It looked fine to me, but does anybody have any suggested changes or questions?
I would just, I noticed that uh, it kind of varies whether our names are used just our first name or, sorry, just our last name or first and last. I think it would be best to pick one or just use initials like PG, PH, when referring to us throughout, but it kind of bounces back and forth between just last name or first and last, which is kind of strange to read.
Conventions around this, I think, have shifted over time, and Rebecca's probably caught a little bit in the middle of that. I don't know what best practices are these days. Is it last names, or does anyone have a sense of it?
I think what I've seen in some other commissions and boards is usually is like first initial last name. So if the commission's amenable to that, maybe we could do that for the next round of minutes and see if that works for everyone.
Okay.
I have very, very small administrative things. I've been just doing last name to date. I guess I didn't catch all of them in this last one, but I've been doing just last names by referring to people. So if people are all right with that, I can just double check those consistencies and make changes to those minutes as well.
I think that sounds fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah, as long as it's kind of all the same throughout the document.
Consistent. It's helpful if it's consistent. Yes. Thanks, Priya. And
Yeah.
thanks, Rebecca.
I guess the only thing I'd add to that is if we have a guest minute taker administrator, just to let them know. I don't know if they just are on to record and they catch the minutes or if they actually write them up after, or if you do it, but however just so
It's a good point, Will. I know we have a guidebook for some of the conservation administrative tasks, so we can just make sure that whatever the style guideline is, we include it in there.
Great.
Okay. Good. Anything else on the minutes?
Good to me.
Is there a motion?
I move we approve the minutes from August 26th.
Thank you, Will. Second?
Second.
Werner seconds. All right, I'll go around my screen. Priya,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Werner,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
and I vote yes. And hello to Marion, who's joined us. And okay, moving on to our agenda. I think we're a minute early, but by the time I speak, we'll probably be at 7:05. We have a public hearing with Keolis Commuter Rail. It's a request for determination of applicability on the right-of-way for pesticide, herbicide spraying. And I believe we are joined this evening by Matt Donovan from Benesh. Is that right?
Yes, hello, my name is Matt Donovan. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Welcome.
Thank you. So we submit this RDA to your commission every 5 years on behalf of Keolis for vegetation management maps for the commuter rail right of way. It's required to get these determinations before submitting the 5-year vegetation management plan to Mass Department of Agricultural Resources for approval. Um, it's a little different than most because there's no sensitive areas as defined in the regulations. I'm pulling up the map right now, so I'm just trying to do two things at once. So you should see the map right now. It's a very small portion of right of way that goes through Brookline.
Matt, would you be able to zoom
Um,
in on the tracks there so we can
and
see what you're talking about?
yes, so this is the Boston border right here, and then also right here. So this is the track right on the south side of 90. Um, so there are sensitive area restrictions that CMR 11 requires you to mark these maps with, and as far as like blue zones, restricted spray zones. And the vegetation management every year consists of herbicide and mechanical vegetation management to keep that right of way safe and free of vegetation as needed to operate the commuter rail. The maps we've provided you with are mainly made for the chemical portion of the plan, but like I said, there are no restrictions. So every year there's 2 chemical applications, one in the May to June timeframe that targets the roadbed of the track, and one in the August-September timeframe that targets the areas adjacent to the roadbed further away from the track. This is always done by a spray truck. Both treatments are always done by a spray truck directly on the track. The roadbed sprays directly down onto the track, and the program the roadbed sprays a little further out into the track, away from the track, I should say. There's always a certified applicator that is an environmental monitor that accompanies the certified applicator, who's equipped with these maps. The applicator can turn those nozzles off or the spray off at any point in time just with the flip of a switch, if there is any standing water or any unanticipated water or people or anything like that. So but in Brooklyn, there's no restrictions. So we are seeking a -4 that would say there is no areas subject to protection, as well as the positive 2A to confirm this mapping. So I can open the floor up to the commission if there's any questions. We do supply your commission via certified mail with a yearly operational plan every year that has a little more detail on the exact vegetation management techniques that happen every year. This is part of the 5-year vegetation management plan, and that's always accompanied by 5 additional yearly operational plans that we provide to you that have a little more detail than the 5-year plan. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and yeah.
Thank you, Matt, for that explanation. Any questions from commissioners? Pam?
You're muted there. Pam.
You're on mute.
Here we go. Okay, sorry about that. Yes, it definitely looks to me like a negative determination, but I'm just curious, does any of the pesticides, does it get into the storm drains at all?
I wouldn't think there's any storm drains on the commuter rail right of way.
Okay, okay. I mean, there is a little
Um,
vegetation along there, so I'm just curious. I'm not, that may be outside of the scope of what we're interested in here, but I just thought I would ask.
Any other questions from the commission? it appears that this filing is, essentially the same one that was made in 2020, and maybe we can look at each other again. Sort of lost us in the image here. Stop the sharing
Yeah.
to discuss. But it's a small area and does not appear to include any areas that might be jurisdictional for us. So in 2020, we did issue a -4 determination. Priya, did you have a question?
I was just curious, following up on Pam's question, has there ever been any flooding on like this portion of track or anything, like during severe storms or anything like that? Or is
Not
that-
not that I know of. The right of way is kind of designed to manage the water in a way where it kind of comes off the tracks and down into ditches and draining,
Mhm.
similar to a road where you need to provide drainage for the actual structure of the roadbed of the track.
Mhm.
So
So is
I
there filtration like in those like ditches, or does it just like as it like cascades off of the tracks down into the ditches, does it just permeate into the ground from there, or does it get like filtered, and what
in
happens to
it
that?
it would be different in different areas. Since your track is such a small section of track, I don't know is probably is all flowing to a certain spot. But typically when they do this, the roadbed treatment, there wouldn't be any water in the ditches. And if there is ever water in any ditches, they wouldn't be able to spray within 10 feet of that standing water, or running water. So they do the roadbed treatment in May, June timeframe where those are typically fully dry, and the absorption of the chemicals get absorbed in the soil, before it would ever be taken on by any water or anything like that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions?
My only question, Matt, would be, is there any sort of subtle variance between this year and the one that was submitted in 2020? Again, it seems like a very similar packet to that was submitted. I'm just wondering if we missed any subtleties or nuance here, or if it's sort of just more of the same.
It's definitely more of the same as it has been for several iterations in the past. There's no significant changes to the vegetation management plan itself, and there are no changes at all to the markings or maps that we submitted, other than just the I think we used a different background, like GIS layer, for the background, and a more zoomed in map, but there are no changes to the actual substance in those maps.
Okay. Anything else?
I move we close the hearing.
Second,
Before we do it, can I just ask, you were asking for both a positive number 2 and a negative number 4? Or is it an either or choice? I just wondered, your request, at least as you explained it verbally, seemed to be for both, and I just wondered if there was something behind that.
Well, so with the way the RDA form is filled out, it's asking if these boundaries are mapped correctly, and I think the positive 2A would be the way to respond to that, but then the -4 would say that there's no jurisdictional boundaries. So I guess not either or, but I think positive 2A and -4 combined would be appropriate, but if it's an or, then just the -4. If you're more comfortable with just issuing the -4, I think that would be fine too.
And that was the determination made in 2020, was just the -4.
Was just the -4. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know whether procedurally we could do both a positive and a negative. I agree with you that, the language in the positive 2 is just, reflecting that that the mapping is accurate. So I don't know, Pam, do you have any perspective on whether we can do both together?
Well, I think I mean, I don't really see why we couldn't. I mean, we haven't gone and looked at the site, so, but I assume that, you know, you can see it right there as you drive along the road, right? It's the tracks are right there, so you don't really see any wetland there.
I think it's more clear to just do the negative for.
The negative one, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
Mhm.
confusing to do both
Yep.
because typically it's either you're finding that the bylaw applies and therefore it's a positive determination, or you're finding that that it doesn't and it's a negative. But
That's not what a positive would be doing in this case. It would just be confirming or denying the maps. And it is very common for this this vegetation management RDA for the positive and negative. But like I said, this is a very different situation than most other towns where there's no jurisdictional areas. And I think it's one of two out of two. There's only two out of the 102 towns that Keolis runs through that doesn't have a area of jurisdiction. So it is I would be fine with either both or just the negative.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And let's see, I heard a motion to close the hearing. Was that
Yes,
Werner?
that was from Werner. I seconded.
Let's take a vote then. Will,
Yes.
Werner,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Ria,
yes.
and I vote yes. So we'll close the hearing. Thank you, Matt, for the information this evening.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night. Okay, next order of business is a discussion, let's see, and vote on the issuance of a certificate of compliance for
Whoops, just go back one there to number 3.
discussion and vote on the issuance of a determination of applicability. Yes, we could do that. And in fact, as I'm looking at the time, we probably have the time for the Keolis RDA. And I think it's the substance of the discussion we've just had around what the determination should be.
Yeah, it should just be, definitely should be negative. And I actually don't remember exactly how the form is set up and whether or not it's, you know, gonna look like we weren't paying attention on number 2 or, you know, needed to do something in there before doing our determination, but
I don't
if we
think there will
don't,
be an
we just-
operational issue.
okay, just,
go
yeah,
with the
just,
negative
okay, so
4.
just go with the 4.
I
You know,
agree. We
the
should do
negative.
what we did last time. That way it's
Yeah.
consistent. And that way,
Yeah.
you know, when it comes up again in 5 years, it'll be the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion on this point? Somebody want to make a motion?
Yes, I move we issue a negative determination of applicability for this
I
project.
second.
Priya? Sorry,
It's okay. Yes.
I didn't mean to catch you at a bad moment. You were just on my screen there.
I dropped something. It's perfect.
And just to
Yeah.
clarify, Pam, that was a negative determination number 4, yes?
Yes, whatever the right one is, yeah. Don't have it right in front of me, but yes,
Yeah, it's number 4. So Priya voted yes. Pam,
yes.
Werner,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Great.
So that's what we'll do.
We'll get that worked up on our end from admin side, and Rebecca will send it over for your electronic signatures when we're all set.
How exciting.
Yes,
I mean, the electronic signature.
as we rocket into the 21st century.
Right. Okay. Good. All right. So, we're a little ahead of schedule, though I think we have
Amelia Koch is the applicant for this time around.
so perhaps we can go ahead and open this next item, which is a discussion and vote on the issuance of a certificate of compliance for 211 Sergeant Road, which I believe is the pond, Sergeant Pond. Amelia, welcome.
Thank you. And by the way, just to make a distinction, 211 is my family home from the time my parents brought it in 1953. And its cross relationship with the pond is that my father volunteered to work with members of the Board of Trustees of the Sargent Road Trust to identify someone who would work on the algae in the pond, which the trustees agreed with my father and others was an issue at the time, and that they were worried about losing the pond entirely. So it was the only address, and they signed consistently that they were Sargent Road Trust in care of 211.
Yes.
211 was the only available address.
Yeah.
Pond doesn't have one.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that.
Just
Yeah.
a pond.
So it was your parents sort of on behalf of the Sargent Road Trust.
Yes,
Yes.
it was.
Yes, thank you.
He loved the pond. He lived in, yeah, he lived to a ripe old age living on Sargent Road.
Yes, and would you like to tell us a little bit about the background of this? I think Werner and I were on the commission at the time and remember your mother very well.
Oh, what fun.
So,
Yeah.
but
She's 97, almost 98 now.
good for her.
Yeah.
Well, she was a force, and it's nice to see you here tonight, carrying this on and maybe closing it out, right?
I
So
would be
if you'd like to
grateful
say
for that.
anything about, your application here and what you're hoping to accomplish,
Thank you.
welcome.
Alex, did you?
Yeah, I was saying if you'd like, Amelia, I can give a little background from our recent visit, but I'm not sure, Amelia, if you'd like to take point here or if you'd like me to kind of lead you in a bit.
Oh, I'd be delighted. Alex and I'm sorry that Rebecca have been amazing and really both of them very helpful through this. I had some trepidation about wading in. So yes, please, Alex.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that, Amelia. So Amelia reached out to us a few weeks ago, looking for a certificate of compliance for the property. This was, as Roberta referenced, this was a original order of conditions from 2000 was when it was first issued for vegetation management on Sargent Pond that was attached to this property at 211 Sargent. We went back and I think Rebecca got out a grappling hook and went down into the archives to dig out the original folders from this over at the Municipal Service Center. But we were able to find the original files as well as there was quite a good amount of documentation showing that the original vendor that worked with this in terms of the herbicide management there provided some documentation of specific site visits when it was set up. And in looking at this certificate of compliance, we're ultimately looking for documentation that the work has been completed. This one's a little trickier than some of the other certificates of compliance we've had in the past because it's a management plan versus an actual production. So there's no as-built plan, there's no plans. It's ultimately showing that, work was completed 17 years ago on a management plan. So the documentation that was provided both from Ms. Koch and from the original file, combined with, I did briefly caucus with the previous conservation administrator to see if he recalled this work having done and remembered that it was done satisfactorily at the time. So that work really combined with there's a current order of conditions for Sargent Pond that's done through the trust for herbicide management, that's done through Solitude Lake management. So this has been a consistent, compliant work over at Sargent Pond for 25 years. And from my conversations with Amelia and from learning a little bit about how her family interacted with and was responsible caretakers of this space based on the documentation, and meeting with Amelia and walking the property, it would be my recommendation that this would be we would issue a certificate of compliance with the level of complete certification that the work was regulated by the order of conditions was satisfactorily completed. Amelia, I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that.
and I think I've said the things that Jim would have wanted me to say. You know, he volunteered because that's who he and Harriet were. You know, Roberta, you seem to know my mother, so whether it was the League of Women Voters or whether it was the Girl Scouts or whether it was in working in the schools and the PTA and all of those things were things when as we've looked back over their financial life, every single month, more than any other bills, were the donations they made to all kinds of different causes. So this was a natural for him. He cared about the estate. He cared about the pond, and he worked with Lycott, and he found Lycott, and unfortunately, they're no longer in business, or I would have been able to find their final reports. But even as I tracked down the corporation that succeeded them, they said if an issue was closed, they hadn't kept the records. So I did try to get those final records, but then I discovered with Rebecca and Alex's help that the files did show that Lycott had come and reported on a regular basis and was, his work was allowed to continue after the initial period of time, and that they continued to report the activity in an acceptable fashion following the rules that were in place. So yes, we would be very glad to see this closed. It was a good chapter, but it's a closed chapter.
Thank you. Pam, did you have a question? Whoops, you're on mute.
There we go. Not a question. I just wanted to say that I think it's really appropriate to issue a certificate of compliance for this project, particularly because there's an ongoing order of conditions to do other work on the pond. And I remember the dredging project on the pond too. So there's been other work, and that work is ongoing, but it certainly seems appropriate to close this one out. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, I saw two more hands. Will?
Yeah, my comment was similar to Pam's in that is there a jurisdictional issue to have two competing quote unquote orders of conditions for management of the pond of vegetation if we have two open? Like, is this one that we missed because the trustees did, like, how did they not know about this one and have it closed before the other one? Like, it just seems like I agree with Pam, we should close it, out of sort of deference and respect to your parents, Amelia, but also like the Sergeant Road Trust should have been like, oh, we already have this. So I think this makes sense to close it just to also, procedurally make sure that we're not overlapping.
Sure. I think from my end, just looking at the books, this one sort of naturally, I think it was extended once in 2003 and once in 2005 or something like that, and then would have naturally expired around 07 or 08. So you're right, Will. Procedurally, this should have been way back when. Ideally, we would have closed out, but I think that there's not necessarily an issue with the one that's happening now with this other one floating, just because it's expired.
Okay.
Pam?
Yeah, I just would quickly comment on this topic that, the way the regulations work, there's a process, the certificate of compliance process to close out orders, conditions, and the idea is they're supposed to be closed out, before the order expires. And in reality, often that does not occur. So it just, things can end up sliding. But anyway, in some cases that's a bad thing because something's going amiss, but in other cases like this, it's entirely benign.
Mm-hmm. And I think, in fact, the dredging process, then the trust got involved with the dredging, after this period of treatment, and that probably, sort of took over. But I do think that, this sort of initiated a period of stewardship from the perspective of the Conservation Commission that we really welcomed with that.
I would agree with that. And I think my father would have been glad to see what happened afterwards.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions?
Nope, none for me, but I did want to mention that just Ms. Koch was very, cooperative in both a meeting and being communicative and coming forward with all the information. And, wanting to make sure that we were, both, as transparent as possible but also seeing this, process through. So it's always nice when we're able to look toward closing out one of these permits officially and wrapping it up.
Okay. Thank you.
Would you like a motion?
Yes, I would.
I move we issue a certificate of compliance for this vegetation management plan, order of conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Werner. Pam,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Werner,
Yes.
Priya,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes. So thank you very much, Amelia, for appearing and putting this to rest for everyone's files. And please wish your mother well.
I will. And
Thank you.
And
Really a
so,
pleasure.
Amelia, we'll get this wrapped up from a commission level, and once it gets sent to you, just a reminder that you'll have to have that. You'll reach out to the Registry of Deeds and go from there. And I can help you with any steps if you get stuck.
Thank you, Alex.
Sure.
And Roberta, it was lovely to hear your memories of my parents, of my mother. So thank you both. And thank you all.
Yeah.
And good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Take care. Good night.
Mhm.
Okay, we are slightly ahead of schedule tonight.
Hey.
Sailing through the evening. Moving on to our discussion on and vote on boundary marker medallions for 80 to 82 Louise Road
All
per
right.
the approved conditions.
So this one's a bit of a blast from the past, and this was before my time, but this is the property over at 80 to 82 Louise Road is both in Newton and in Brookline. And one of the conditions was that this is sort of a property that abuts Lost Pond. And so at the back there, they're doing a restoration project or a sort of a habitat conservation restoration project. And one of the conditions of that were that these granite boundary markers be installed along that limit of the restoration area, and that medallions be installed on those boundary markers to designate that area semi-permanently. We haven't done this traditionally, so one of the condition also specified specifically that the commission vote on language and style of these medallions. These medallions are the ones that the city of Newton uses. So I did talk to Jen Steele, the conservation agent over at Newton, when we met for a co-site visit with the applicant over there. These are the ones she used, and I wanted to see, one, would the commission be amenable to this one that says, restored native habitat, do not disturb, which would be, I think, some appropriate language for this kind of area. And the bigger question is if this is a condition that the commission would like to see more of in the future, that would be something where Rebecca and I could work on having our own medallions made for the town of Brookline versus this. These were available from, the Jen had them with her, basically available for use there. So I know that the applicant was sort of grabbed some and was waiting on permission of our commission before moving forward with their installation. So I just wanted to open this up and see what the commission's thoughts were, and if they wanted to vote on the issuance of one of these medallion styles for this project. And then as a discussion bit, if we'd like to pursue this kind of condition for other projects in the future.
Alex, I'm as you were describing this project was coming back to me, but I missed. Is this to mark the border between the property and the Lost Pond, or could you describe again exactly what's being marked there?
I can show you a picture right here because I went out there the other day. So let me pull this up really quick. Maybe 1 second here. So this is the back of the house. And if you see here, this is the restoration planning sort of in process. And if you see where these orange stakes are, that'll be where the boundary markers are. So that's the limit of this sort of, that'll be kind of lawn area up to this restored habitat area. So there'll be 5 granite bounds along that, and also a post and rail fence as a boundary marker for that space. And so each of these granite posts would have one of these medallions on them.
But is it marking a conservation restriction there?
It's not necessarily a conservation restriction. It's on the plan set that was submitted initially. It showed this sort of delineated area as a naturalization area. And that's the area that this would be delineating. So it sort of abuts the conservation, and it's sort of, I think it's within right around the 50-foot buffer to the wetland. And that's where this bound was brought up.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Pam?
Yeah,
Did
what is the size of those medallion things?
They're designed to put on like a 4x4 post, so they're about this big, like a campaign button.
Okay. Like that,
Yeah.
like that big? Okay.
Did you have something to follow that with?
I'm just thinking, I'm just sort of
Ah.
thinking about this. Many towns actually are quite big on markers of, permanent things to show boundaries, so.
Well, that's why I thought it would be an important sort of conversation
Yeah.
to bring up, because we have it for this one, but then I didn't know where the
Yeah,
commission
yeah.
wanted to go from here, if we wanted to look
Yeah.
into this more.
Yeah, Marion's got her hand up there.
Oh, Marion, and then Priya, yes.
Marion, you're muted on our end.
This is
There you
different from bordering on a conservation area. I mean, it does border on Lost Pond, but the private property extends down to the bottom of the slope. That's what's so weird about that street. So they're delineating that area, but their property goes further, I believe, than those markers. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that's
not,
how it
it's
is.
an interesting delineation, because there's a lot of ledge there too, so there's only so much actual landscaping they could do in there.
And actually, that whole street on that side, that whole block has that same thing, but nobody's done anything yet.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you're here for this. 'Cause it sounds a little complicated. Let's see, Priya and then Werner.
I'm gonna go backwards. I do think that we should have this as a common practice moving forward, as using these types of markers to delineate where we need things delineated. I think specifically like these types of markers can be really helpful for establishing where Concom jurisdiction is. So like when property changes hands, although the property owners should know what they're buying, sometimes it's not until they actually see the marker there that says Conservation Commission that they realize, like, hey, maybe there's something I should be doing here. So to that end, I would just suggest that if we were gonna like buy a bunch of medallions in bulk or something, it's probably like cheaper to buy them in bulk and like have them all say the same thing. We might just want to keep them quite simple. And I think that I like the one that says restoration space, do not disturb, but it doesn't say like Town of Brookline on it. And I think it probably ought to say Town of Brookline on the medallions and Conservation Commission, so that people who may encounter the medallions are signaled to contact the commission and contact Alex and Rebecca if they have something that they need or want to do in that area.
Okay. So we're looking at the restored native habitat one at the moment and sort of augmenting it or
Priya, would you object to using this existing one for this project and looking at having custom ones made for the future? Or would you want to see a specific Brookline one for this project?
No, it sounds fine. It sounds fine to me. I mean, technically, they're supposed to, figure out to contact the commission anyway, but
Sure.
sometimes. it just-
I don't have a thought either way. I just wanted to see what works best for you folks.
Yeah, the existing plan is fine with me for the lost bond matter.
Little concerned about it being ambiguous, but I'm interested in hearing what other people have to say. Werner.
Well, I was going to say that it sort of does make sense to try to have a single marker, but if you do that, it has to be ambiguous almost. And this, do I have this right? I mean, this seems unusual in that the permit required the area be restored, but there's no conservation restriction, right? So I think, and if the owners agreed to put this in, that's great, because then people will sort of assume that it's protected, but it really isn't. I mean, if they 10 years from now, they could go and do something else because it was restored, doesn't mean it's restored forever, right?
Well, just because it's not a conservation restriction doesn't mean it's not protected, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
it's still within the 50
Well-
foot buffer. It's
jurisdiction.
close to there. But I
Oh,
think
because they'd have to
Werner,
get,
it
it's
does,
jurisdictional, so they'd have to get a permission. Would they have to get permission to do landscaping in that area?
yeah, as long as you're not converting
that's-
lawn to lawn and it's inside the 50, then yeah.
And that's
but
a
I think-
condition, because that's a condition in the permit, probably.
Well, it's a condition in the permit that they have I think it's a 3-year maintenance and monitoring plan on that spot. But
Mhm.
again, if the next homeowner wanted to do something in that area, whether they know it's a wetland or not, they're still supposed to do that. But I think that these boundary markers, like you're saying, Werner, is like, there's no more hard reminder that this is a spot, no matter who owns the spot, than if there's some sort of physical reminder that it requires some further thought and process.
So it's in a jurisdictional area,
Mhm.
even though it's
Yes.
conservation restriction. Okay.
And I guess what I feel like is I don't know exactly how you deal with the ambiguity, and I would suggest maybe, Alex, that maybe Newton has had enough experience with it that you could talk to them about why they decided to have 4 different markers. Maybe there is a good reason that they've gone through this and realized that they really need 4 different descriptions.
Sure.
Will?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think that in the order for this property that we conditioned that they would put in the markers and mark them. And they asked to do, like, we thought, if I remember, it was gonna be like posts with like a little, like something in the cement post or something like that. But I think that then they offered to do this like sticker kind of thing.
These
or
are
medallion.
medallion things.
Yeah,
that-
yeah, no, but like not in the ground, right? It's gonna be on the post.
Yeah, these would be installed on the granite markers that go into the ground.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's, so we condition that they do this, so
Mhm.
I think that we should do, and this, I think that we should eventually have, like Newton, like a collection of these so we can use them, because this is not the only property where we're gonna have sections that are jurisdictional, but they're not gonna put a conservation restriction on, or they haven't done it yet, but maybe they will when they realize that they can't do anything. Like, it would be helpful, like in other, like, the Sears Road one with the house that's been redone a couple times, like just
Sure.
having these just to market so that future homeowners and things like that just can see. And then, we could use other ones, like when one falls off in Lost Pond or Lake Lehigh, just put up we have these new ones that are preset that everyone can see and know. And there's like a consistency overall in all the sort of open space, however you mark them.
Okay.
But I like these are fine to use for now, especially since this property is on both Newton and Brookline.
So it sounds like aside from this specific thing, there would be merit in our division exploring having a few different styles of these made in a unique Brookline way that could be incorporated into future conditions, maybe starting with specific to, sanctuary abutters and things like that, but we would have a few different styles and markings that we could, have at at a town level that when we have one of these conditions, they could potentially use some of these. I think when, I looked at the invoice from Newton, they're sort of like $3 a piece if you order a bunch of custom ones at a time. So it's something that we
Oh.
potentially have in-house that we could use for permits like this if we wanted to condition them. Does that sound right to everybody?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just puzzling over the restored native habitat, do not disturb. I mean, that's kind of the best of these, and yet it
Mhm.
doesn't really. I'm sort of looking at them. There's the permanently protected restoration area. It's more like protected restoration area is kind of what we wanted to say. Are you saying, I mean, how quickly? Yeah, thank you for putting that up again.
Sure.
How quickly do we need to make the decision on this, or how quickly could we order something? Could we do something different than the 4 of these, or?
I don't think no, there's not an issue. These were the ones that Newton had on hand. And so because I would happen to be there when the agent from Newton was there as well, and we were talking specifically about the medallion, she was like, I have some that might work for this project right now. And so I wanted to see if the commission was amenable to using these for this project, or if not, that we could communicate. And I've already communicated to the applicant that I said, you can hold on to them, and I just don't know if these are going to work or not. So they might work, if the commission's amenable to having one of these on this project, or it could be that they can use them for now until we come up with a new design, and then it gets upgraded, or, I stop by the house with 5 markers in an envelope and we upgrade the postings or something like that.
Right. I was
But we're
sort
not
of,
beholden to use these ones.
I do like Priya's idea of putting, Brookline on it. So I would
Yeah.
try to vote for protected restoration area, town of Brookline on the bottom or something like that. But that's where I'm trending. Pam, how about?
Yeah, yes. I would say the same. I think it is important to have town of Brookline on this someplace, and I don't, it was it just, is it a single family house there with, it looks like more than one house there, but
I believe it's 82, it's 80 and 82 Louise Road. So I
okay,
believe it's 2.
I think they
okay.
have 2 condos next to each other.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Because I think I think it is important to have something that's going to be pretty firm and have the town of Brookline there, because otherwise you can kind of see how, a trash thing would get put there, whatever, just seems like you easily could have that space get taken over by something that would not be great, for that buffer zone area where you're trying to restore it. So I think having something like this, that's very clear would be important.
Priya?
Yeah, this is nitpicky, but I also think that if we're going to order them anyway, ideally it would have like the town seal, or like if the commission has I don't think we have a separate like seal or anything from the town, but if it had something that looked more official, then just right. I mean, no offense to Newton, but I think ideally it would have like the town seal on it as well to, really.
I think they're in the process of sort of looking at some alternatives to the town seal itself, but we certainly have a town of Brookline sort of official logo or something like that we could utilize.
Yeah.
I hear that, though. I mean, as I look down at the one, I think putting the city of Newton at top, putting the town of Brookline at the top kind of gives it a little bit
Would be
of
good.
in that
Gravitas,
way,
yeah.
a little bit of gravitas, and then, protected a native habitat or restoration area. Restoration, I mean, as this ages, that becomes a little less relevant to it being native habitat. I don't know. Do people have ideas about, I'm sort of thinking town of Brookline at the top, and then, protected. Not too many words, but
Sure.
something on the bottom.
It could say something like, protective native habitat, and that's relatively general. It refers to anything that's within you know, the jurisdictional line.
Mhm.
Or yeah, I could say town of Brookline protective native habitat or something like that. And whether that's just words or whether it has a very subtle logo or something like that. We could, and then that could be, again, if we want to come up with 3 or 4 different ones, we can come up with those, I think, probably in-house without a vote. For the sake of this project, we'd just be looking for, does the commission want to vote to utilize one of these medallions for this project, or should we require that a medallion, most likely because this applicant is, I think, looking forward toward a COC in the near future, it would probably be something that they'd be responsible for creating, that would say, you know, town of Brookline, you know, protected native habitat or something like that.
Wait, sorry, so either the choice tonight is either to use these, one set of these, or to tell the applicant to get their own.
Right, the commission needs to vote on appropriate style and language for the medallions for this project. So the commission could either vote to use the ones that Newton sort of has in stock for this project, and again, down the line, we could certainly supplement them with changed Brookline ones, or whether the commission wants to require the applicant to have town of Brookline ones made for this project.
So we
Then-
could specify what they say.
Yep.
And then we would make them, or the applicant would get them? Right?
In this case, the applicant is ultimately responsible for the medallions because I don't have them or anything. This would be something that would probably we'd need to figure out the language and design and order and all that stuff. So it could be 6 months till we have them. For the sake of this project, the applicant will be responsible for creating medallions in the style and language that the commission votes on.
Okay. Ria?
Is there any kind of rush to get the medallions in place? Like, do they need to close out do they need like a certificate of compliance and they have to close out or anything? Or like is a couple weeks of ordering new ones gonna be like a major hindrance?
So it's up to, you know, I know this project is looking toward a certificate of compliance this fall. It sort of would be up to the commission if they came forward without these in place yet, if the commission deemed it appropriate to grant the certificate of compliance if these weren't yet in place. Or if it was, you know, if that was, and we'll put them on when we get them commissioned, or if you want us to wait until we have them done. And again, just speaking from our operational side of things, I don't know when the earliest time we could have the custom ones made would be.
Mhm.
I have
Mhm.
one more quick question. They also need a certificate of compliance from Newton too, right?
Correct.
So they're
They
looking to
would,
get
they'd be looking for that's for like the front half of the thing. The
Got it,
certificate
got
of
it.
compliance wouldn't affect this part of the project from Newton because it's all out of their town.
Got it. Okay.
Also, I just took a look, I just took a quick Google and I didn't find many examples, but Town of Ashland has their markers say Town of Ashland Protected Resource Area, and I liked that.
I like that too, actually.
Yeah.
I would suggest, I mean, I don't know that we want to go yet, but I would suggest for the sake of this one that we take what we have and not put it on the applicant, because then they might not do it the way we want it, or take what we have for now and say that in the future we're going to replace them when we get our own. And so then we have them in place. The applicant isn't left to their own devices, whatever that might be, and then we can say that they fulfilled the order of conditions when they
Okay.
asked to get the certificate of compliance.
Okay. Alex, how are they connected to how are they appended to the granite?
Yeah, it gets sort of basically drilled in with 2 little like you can kind of almost nail it in through like a concrete spike into the top. There's a specific kind of tool and hardware that adheres them on there.
Okay, so if we put something on, you can take that off and put something else on?
Yeah, you gotta want it, but you can hypothetically remove it and then install a new one.
Okay.
That's a bit awkward though, honestly. I always think of these as one and done, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I think well, what I'm hearing is we kind of like our own, but we don't want to hold this project up too much.
And that again, that could be a discussion that came up in the certificate of compliance. I don't think there would be a issue with saying, one of the conditions is 95% done with a commitment to that I'll stop by myself and drop off the new medallions when they're
Yeah,
done.
yeah. And why don't we do that?
Yeah. Also, can't we just add the one that says Brookline on it, like right above or below the existing one, if the existing one just says like protected area?
It's only going to be enough room on top for a thing.
Oh, it's like on top, not like
Yeah.
I see.
So it doesn't look like a sign. It just looks like a settle post unless you're sort of hovering over it and then you see the seal.
Yeah, it's a granite, like a boundary marker. Okay, well, so is that the direction in which we want to go? Let's see, did we just lose Pam? We did. So my screen just shifted. Should we give her a moment to show up before we vote? It sounds to me like we're moving towards asking Alex to design something that says Town of Brookline Protected Resource Area,
That sounds right to me.
some sort of a symbol. And that as a condition of the certificate of compliance, they would install the bounds, but agree to accept the marker when we bring it to them.
And that's something that could go in the cover letter of that COC when that comes down the pipe.
Okay. I guess we've got a quorum even without Pam, so maybe we should take a vote on that. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I move that what exactly is the motion?
I think it would be to that for the 8082 Louise Road project, the medallions have the wording Town of Brookline
Okay.
Protected Resource Area.
I move that the 80 to 82 order of conditions on 8082 Louise Road be required to add medallions that state Town of Brookline on them, and also protected resource area on them when they are available.
Dynamite.
Thank you, Will. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. And Pam is joining us.
I'm a
Pam?
yes.
Okay. Pam's a yes. Priya?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Great. We'll work on those sort of internally. I'll communicate with the applicant, and we'll go from there.
Good. Okay. All right. Our longest discussion of the evening. Let's move on to the possible letter of support for a CPA project around managing invasive species in Deep Lake Lehigh.
Sure. So we have a couple of CPA applications coming up through Sustainability and Natural Resources. One is going to be for the proposed study of the conditions assessment of the historical bridges along the Muddy River, but for presentation to the Conservation Commission and for inquiring about a letter of support. We are once again applying for a CPA grant funding for invasive management in Deep Lake Lehigh Sanctuary. So we went through this last year and we got the grant for it, which is fantastic. I'm going to be working on that this winter with the idea of them starting the work on the Phragmites and buckthorn removal in the sanctuary this spring, summer, fall of 2026. Our initial vision of this was that this be a multi-year, sort of multifaceted project. So if you're familiar with Blakely Horror, there's the boardwalk that goes through this sort of marshy area with all of the frag and buckthorn and invasive materials is pretty wide and very dense with invasive materials. So the idea was to sort of treat it in bands so that because of the nature of this isn't something we can just wild spray. We have to do clip and drip and swabbing and some very sort of surgical application of herbicides in there. And so the idea is that over a multi-year period, we'd look at a band of treatment and then a next band of treatment and then a next band of treatment. So we'd be looking for a letter of support from the Conservation Commission to support this second year of invasive treatment in Deep Lake Horse Sanctuary.
You have to apply every year for each band.
Yeah, so the funding will just covers sort of one band of stuff. So we'd be looking for a 3-year. Probably we'll be back next year to do this dance again.
How much money is involved?
It's a $20,000 request. I think the most recent quote I got for this project was around 15.9. But it is something that can, a lot can change in 9 months. So.
Okay. Good. All right. Thanks, Alex. Any questions, discussion?
So we're voting on applying for the grant.
You'd be voting on issuing a letter of support on behalf of the Conservation Commission for the grant. So to say, yes, this is a good project and the Conservation Commission supports it.
Sounds like a good project to me.
I second.
All right.
No,
Is that a motion?
Anne?
Yes.
Rhea?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Let's write that letter of support. Thank you.
And then those typically go to Marcus for his review and signature.
Good. Okay. Should we move on to staff update?
I think so. I'll keep it short and sweet tonight. All right. I wanted to give a quick rundown on some projects that we have going on. These are currently permitted project. 154 Woodland Road. This is over next to Dane up there that we've been reviewing. I did check this out recently. The wall that we had recently approved up there has been installed, as well as a lot of the sort of perimeter wetland plants that we talked about. They have been really informative about keeping me in the loop about that and sent me images, and it all looks like I believe we expected it to look, which is great. Over at 88 Cottage Street, this is the Tea House project. The tea house itself is sort of rounding the corner in terms of construction and completion. I'm meeting the project team out there next week to talk about what the planting plan looks like. As a refresher, this is that sort of stream system that goes behind the tea house. And last season, they had, after it had washed out, they had planted grass to stabilize everything while they worked on the water system, with the idea to then revisit it this year and replant the initial approved planting plan. This is a pretty robust planting plan. I think it's something like it's over 2,000 plants, I believe, that they're putting in. So I'm meeting with them next week to talk about that, see if there's been any variation, and I think they're eager to get this plan rolling and get these plants on the ground before suddenly it's winter around the corner. So this is still consistent with the management and monitoring plan that they submitted last winter when they presented over to Concom. So everything's still in line, but we just want to make sure that the timeline is realistic for the fall. 1281 West Roxbury Parkway. This is over at the golf course. This project had previously gone out to bid. The bids were not what the Recreation Department expected. So it is, I believe, going back out to bid this Friday with some modifications to the bid package, specifically around the irrigation. So I think they're taking irrigation out of some of the initial plan here. This is for all the dredging and the stream work that's over there. So that's going back out, and I'll keep you informed once we know if they have a contractor. Over at Amory Playground, Halls Pond. Halls Pond is, as of I think last Monday, closed now to the public due to the construction happening over there. So between the work on the parking lot and the work on the tennis court and all along the perimeter there, there's a lot of project work happening over at Amory, and it's exciting to see the turnaround. The contractor's been good about compliance on my end and about communicating any issues. John, you have a question?
Well, yes, I actually was most interested in this part of the meeting, and particularly what you just said. Hall's Pond may be closed, but I went there this morning, and so it may not be closed yet, or I may have violated the rules by intruding in. But basically, one gate, the gate nearest Beacon Street, off the driveway there, is closed because that's a huge construction area for the tennis courts. But you can go in the small gate off the parking lot behind the Beacon Street multifamily buildings. And you can go in the other gate where the map is and the sign. So I was just wondering, when will it really be closed? Because I wanted to let people know. Clearly, the tennis courts are closed. The main parking area in Emery Playground is closed. And I'm not sure if it's possible to get into Amory Woods or not. I didn't try. But,
sure. So I think, Sean, that's a good point.
That's what I observed a few hours ago.
So access in there is certainly limited now. I think the contractor is trying to, understands that it's a community space and is avoiding sort of a hard closure until a lot of work is really happening in there. But I'm happy to keep anyone abreast of any changes, we get as things become hard locked. We just want to make sure people are aware and concerned about what's happening there in terms of that accessibility has gone down pretty dramatically as all the work has happened around Amory. So we always encourage, exploration as long as an area isn't officially closed as a construction site yet. And then when the time comes that, boardwalk boards are getting taken out and things are really closed, we'll make sure to cry that out from the rooftops as well.
Do you know when that's going to happen? Because obviously when the boardwalk work starts, access will be impossible.
Sure. I don't have a hard answer yet, Sean. The contractor has some freedom there and when they want to execute those parts of the project. But again, that'll go up on our website, and we'll make sure to reach out to all of our community partners and make sure that they know that it's not lowercase closed, it's capital closed at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And then 80 to 82 Louise Road, I referenced this earlier in our medallion discussion, but they're working on their restoration plan in the backyard now. And I spoke with a few weeks ago, I spoke with the project manager over there who expressed some eagerness in getting a certificate of compliance this fall. So I would expect them, sometime around in the coming meetings. I just wanted to provide a few updates on things we have going on in terms of the open space and recreation plan. We're a little bit of sort of treading water at this point, but we have a plan that has everything in it, including pre-state approval, including board and commission approval, up to select board approval. So we are planning on presenting to the select board in early November. And that's the last step we have before we can put the final dot on the open space and recreation plan. In terms of upcoming town projects that would come to the Conservation Commission, these would be projects likely to come in over the winter. Griggs Park is currently in design review. That design, I don't believe, has been fully finalized yet. It's still in the design process, but given the isolated vegetated wetland space in Griggs, essentially the whole park is within Conservation Commission jurisdiction. So they'll come visit and let us know what's going on. Over at Skyline Park and Incinerator Drive, this project is again in the pipeline. This would be for the modification and enhancement of the walkway that goes down Incinerator Drive and sort of connects Skyline toward Lost Pond and the conservation areas over there. In terms of upcoming event, this weekend over at Ridley School, we are doing our second Miyawaki miniature forest planting, which we're really excited about. These mini forests are a great opportunity to work with a community partner and Mothers Out Front, which is fantastic, but also they represent a lot of what we're looking at in the open space plan in terms of climate resiliency, in terms of enhancing existing open space and finding micro opportunities for open space enhancement and small spaces. And this was one where I think the we maxed out volunteers, in hours or something because everyone was so interested in coming. So if you do have some time on Sunday morning and want to swing by and see what we're up to over there, it's a really great project. And if you had a chance to check out the one over on Brookline Ave, it was really quite successful. So our team has gotten pretty good at this in terms of coming up with a landscape plan that works and a plan that works and getting all the volunteers involved. So we're really excited about this one.
Where is it in the park? And
it's essentially in the playground. It's
Okay.
going to be sort of
on the
more or
back
less
end.
embedded in there. So you see here, if this down in my horrible little picture here,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you see it sort of tucked in the playground there.
Yeah.
I want to make a pitch that the next park area should be Downs. There's plenty of space for a mini forest there.
Yeah, I think we're going to be looking at, a wide range of things in the coming years, again, especially as we're looking at habitat enhancement and the spaces for more of these and finding people and spaces that are really involved. So our last Stewardship Sundays is coming up in a few weeks. This is over at D. Blakely Horror. We're likely going to pivot to another location next year because we've actually done quite a lot over at Blakely Horror. If you've had a chance to visit over there lately, you can walk around the whole thing without getting your feet wet now, which is an interesting change of pace from how it was a few years ago. We're excited about we've had consistently sort of between 7 and 20 people at every one of them this year, and most of the time it's been a different group. But some of the times there's people that have come from month to month and are right there at 10 a.m. they come rolling up and say, how can I haul rocks for you out in the forest today? So that's been great. There's a trail restoration project coming up at Halls Pond. So the Friends of Halls Pond aren't going to have their traditional community day that they have in the fall, given all the things that are happening over at Halls Pond and Amory. But they still really, really, really wanted to help us out this fall. So we're going to be doing the same sort of work that we've done over at Blakely Horror in Halls Pond in the corner there to start rebuilding some of the trail that's worn down, the kind of non-boardwalk trail in that upland corner of Halls Pond. And then the folks over at Chestnut Hill Realty are going to help us do some planting of new hemlocks and some habitat restoration over in D. Blakely Horror. They've done a couple service days with us a year for a few years now, and they always do a really great job over there. So just some exciting things to look forward to in the fall.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. Pam.
Yeah, I just wondered, would it be possible in the Halls Pond to do some planting in that area that has lost a big tree, and then the house on the other side, on the outside of Halls Pond got, they took out they sort of clear cut the lot, and so you really from the path there, really you're just looking at this house, and I think it would be a really good location and sort of get some vegetation growing in there and in the Halls Pond side of the fence. You know what I mean?
I think so. Maybe I can take a look at it with a few of the friends either that day or earlier, Pam, and see what, it might not be something where we can do it this fall, but I know that we'll be looking toward some kind of grand reopening of this space in the spring. And I think a planting before that would be great to kind of freshen up. It's the trickiest thing with dealing with the plantings at Halls Pond is keeping them watered.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Other thoughts, comments? No. Alex, you're busy.
October and May are usually pretty hopping for us, but that's what we like. We like that we have so much to do in so many spaces, and everyone wants to come out and do stuff with us. So it's always great.
Great. It's great. And Sean, thank you for joining us. Is there anything that you'd like to add here?
No, I've been trying to simultaneously participate in this meeting and the select board meeting. So I spoke during their public hearing, but I'll say no more here. Thank
Sean,
you.
do you want to plug your event for this weekend with Green Space Alliance over in our sanctuaries?
Well, Marion might be able to help out with that one because she's the one who's going to be leading the walk in the Lost Pond Sanctuary and actually beyond. She will lead us all the way to Newton during the course of that walk. And we won't really even know that we've crossed the line probably unless she tells us. But 10 a.m., we going to begin the walk, a couple of hours. Weather looks great. Meet at the corner of Arlington Road North there in Craftsland. There's a little bit of parking where you can take the T and walk from Chestnut Hill. And we still have a few spaces available if any of you would like to join us.
We'll make you some custom boundary markers to take with you, Marion, that you can put down along the way as you go through there.
But no QR codes yet.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good. All right, and then I guess our final order of business is to think about a potluck, which or some sort of a social event. We had thought, when Alex came on last spring, that it wasn't quite, we needed to sort of say goodbye to Tom. And Alex is fairly firmly entrenched here, but we haven't met together in a while. We've got Priya, who is new to our group, and I at least have not met her in person. And so it's time, folks. Sean, did you want to say something at this point, or? Oops, you're on mute.
Well, when you mentioned the potluck, I immediately thought of Betsy Shergross.
Right.
And I don't know if I missed this discussion, and I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, raising something that's not really public, but I understand that she will be buried in Walnut Hill Cemetery on the 20th of October. Is that common knowledge? And is there going to be any kind of ceremony? It's something that certainly the Conservation Commission might take an interest in one way or another. Of course, there she will join Charles Sprague Sargent, H.H. Richardson, and John Charles Olmsted, among others. But I just heard this at the MOC meeting, and I have not seen anything beyond that. But I just wanted to mention it in case any of you who knew Betsy knew more or would like to find out more.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. October 20th. Do you have any further information about the time?
I don't. I could check with some of the MMOC members, but it just came up at the last mock meeting, and I've seen nothing else, but I thought someone on the commission might know. There was a feeling that Betsy would not have wanted a big event, and that might be why this is not, being publicized very much, but I thought I should mention it, particularly at this commission meeting.
Well, I appreciate you sharing, Sean. If I do find information, and based on that, I'm happy to share it with the commission just as a point of reference.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to know that she's coming back to Brookline and she'll be buried there. Hadn't realized that. Pam?
Yeah, I was in the past, from time to time, we've had an environmentalist of the year sort of thing that we've done, and maybe we should do a posthumous one for Betsy.
We could. I'm happy to look into how that process works. I'm unfamiliar with it, I'm afraid, from my end. Pam, is that something where the Conservation Commission has sort of appointed environmentalist of the year?
I don't know. I don't go back as far as some of you do, but didn't we used to do that? We used to do that from time to time.
We did. And what we would typically do it when we were appearing in front of the select board, to raise awareness of that person. I'm thinking about whether or not maybe early November, when we're going to be appearing around the open space plan, and presumably we might, be lifting up green space as well, because it's dedicated to them. That might be a moment to also.
We also we now do a mandated annual report to select board, which I think we're on the docket for January for that too. So there's a couple options. There.
Yeah. Yeah. She may well have been the environmentalist of the year in the past.
Yes, I can easily believe she is, but there's no harm in doing another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
If folks are interested, I can look into what that process looked
Yeah.
like and what operationally went into that in the past, because I'm sure there's a folder hiding in one of our drives somewhere about environmentalist of the year.
Yeah, I can remember us doing it. I can't remember what the occasion was particularly, but I'm quite sure we did that.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, and I don't think there's much to it. We just did it, but then it would
We
be
just did it,
appropriate-
yeah.
appropriate to award somebody that's still around to do it posthumously would be a little weird, I think. And I'm sure we recognized Betsy while she was alive, so.
Yeah, yeah.
But the idea is not a bad one. I think it's one of those things we might have fallen out of, sort of during the pandemic, if not earlier. But so, let's hold that thought right now.
Yeah.
And then in terms of
There are
planning,
things like you-
oh, sorry, where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, there are good things going on. I mean, the people that are doing the mini forests and the pollinator gardens and things like that, some of those people should be recognized.
Well, maybe
That's-
there's a.
Yeah,
I
I think
stop-
Betsy would approve of us, awarding it to someone. She was
Yeah.
always in favor of.
Well, we could turn it
awards.
into the
Wow.
Betsy Sure Gross Environmentalist of the Year award.
Yeah,
There
that's
we go.
fine, sure.
That's not bad, Werner. That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me look into that a bit, and I might reach out to a few of you individually and see some thoughts as we kind of if we move forward with something for either later this fall or in the winter.
Good.
For this event though, I know the structure we had discussed last year was sort of doing an event over at the Municipal Service Center, kind of after hours in our community room there, given that there's a kitchen and it has space and it has those, it has all the things we're kind of looking for. It's not exactly in the middle of everything. It's about as far away as you can be, but I think in terms of convenience and just having the functions we need, it would fit the bill if that works for everybody. One of the other changes I thought might be kind of neat would be an opportunity for the commission to meet some of our other division members. I know you're familiar with our conservation team here, but we do have a tree preservation enforcement agent, and we do have a deputy director of sustainability, and obviously Alexandra's in the mix. And I thought this might be a cool opportunity to meet some of our other team here in our fledgling division. And obviously, and Katie Weatherseed, who you're familiar with, joined our team recently, well as our communications and sort of outreach organizer for sustainability. So I thought getting the whole gang together to meet with the commission might be kind of nice.
Okay, so would it be like a potluck?
I think so. I think Roberta, you can speak to this, but I think that you folks have done that in the past to some success.
Yeah, I think it's worked pretty well to do something on a weeknight, early evening, so that it's convenient for staff to drop in after work. And I agree with you, Alex. I think the location has worked well for us recently.
So I'll probably send out, what I can do is I can look at calendar times and look at, I know Tuesdays work for folks some nights, so we can look at one of those, possibly a little earlier in the evening, like a 6 o'clock or something, or a 6:30, and see. We'll just send a poll around and see some times that work for later this fall.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Any other ideas for this that we should consider? No? Good. All right. I think it's enough of a direction. Thank
It's
you, Alex.
enough of a plan, yeah.
Sure.
Good. Okay. Any other business?
That's all I got from my end.
Okay. Well,
Move we adjourn.
I thought you might. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Will. Priya,
Yes.
Werner,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
I vote yes. So that concludes the meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Right.
All right,
Thank-
bye.
Good night.
Thanks for coming. Good, Miriam. Good night.
Bye.